What's going on, guys? It's Clutch Plays here, and today I'm going to be telling you why this upcoming Anthony Davis trade is going to be the hardest trade to complete ever in the history of the NBA. So I was just going to find enough reasons why Anthony Davis will get traded to the Lakers, but as I was coming up with trade possibilities, I realized that this trade is going to be so hard to complete for them and the rest of the NBA too. The Knicks were recently named as the frontrunner, but they decided to not pursue Anthony Davis as heavily once the injury news of KD came out. Also, they were scared to complete the trade because it reminded them too much of the Carmelo Anthony trade, which ended up as a disaster in the long run. The Pelicans also came out and said that they did not like their assets all that much as well, so the Knicks have really officially withdrawn from the Anthony Davis bidding. Now, the only teams that have the assets to complete a potential trade and have shown the slightest bit of interest are the Nets, Lakers, and Celtics. The only team on Anthony Davis's list of teams that he would re-sign with are the Lakers, so the Celtics and Nets have to be certain that they could persuade Anthony Davis to re-sign with them. First, the Celtics would have to give up their gem Jason Tatum and maybe even Jaylen Brown in a potential trade for Anthony Davis, which honestly wouldn't even significantly improve their team, unless Kyrie Irving stays. Kyrie Irving seems to be gone though because of this disaster season, and I do not see any way he stays on the Celtics. Anthony Davis's dad came out and said that he does not ever want his son to play for the Celtics, but this is important because Anthony Davis has never said anything about his preferred trade destinations and wants to be the good guy in the situation, so people in his camp are coming out and saying what he really thinks. This could easily be his dad saying what his son wants to say, but doesn't want to act as the bad guy. Also, right now, as I'm recording this video, Rich Paul just said that there's absolutely no way, like literally no way, that the Celtics are going to be able to re-sign Anthony Davis, and if they get him, it's going to be for a 1-year rental. So there it is. Anthony Davis will not re-sign with the Celtics. Danny Ainge, in my opinion, is the top 3 GM in the NBA, and I believe that he is smart enough to realize that Anthony Davis will be a 1-year rental if traded to Boston. Of course, now, the next team, the Brooklyn Nets, just traded away their 2 first-round picks to open cap space for 2 potential max free agents. Kyrie Irving has shown significant interest in playing in Brooklyn, and if they can trade for Anthony Davis, this would most likely persuade him to play in Brooklyn. But you never know with Kyrie Irving at the end of the day. I don't see Anthony Davis re-signing in Brooklyn because he is trying to build his brand, and being in the little brother team in New York is not the move. He will leave in a year to New York or most likely LA if he goes to Brooklyn, but they will have one great season with him. Also, Rich Paul said that whatever team he goes to, Anthony Davis will go into free agency. So really, if he doesn't go to the Knicks or Lakers, no other team has a chance at him. Brooklyn has players to trade, but they are lacking the draft picks that the Pelicans won. Finally, the Lakers want to get AD so bad, but now that Jeannie Buss has much more power with Magic Johnson gone, she has made sure to overwatch this trade package to make sure they are not giving up too much. Jeannie was upset with how much Magic offered at first and didn't want their entire core of young players being traded for Anthony Davis. Now the Lakers will probably try their best to keep one of Lonzo or Kuzma in a potential Anthony Davis trade, which will hinder their chances at getting AD. The Pelicans already aren't inclined towards doing business with the Lakers, so they would want more from the Lakers than any other team in the NBA to make a deal happen. As you all see, these teams have reasons why a trade would not work. And on top of all of this, David Griffin came out and said that no one team has enough assets to make a trade with them for Anthony Davis. This basically means a third team will need to be involved to make a deal happen, which makes it much harder. The criteria David Griffin gave to other teams about a potential Anthony Davis trade is an all-star level player, a potential all-star player, and draft picks. All of these teams have 2 of the 3 things to make a trade happen and will need to work with another team to get Anthony Davis. For example, the Lakers need an all-star level player, the Nets need draft picks, and the Celtics also need an all-star level player. Now this can get super tricky because certain teams want players that the Pelicans want, so the trade ultimately cannot happen. Like the Wizards want Lonzo Ball in any potential deal for Bradley Beal, and the Pelicans also want Lonzo Ball, so this would not work. On top of this, the NBA draft is 8 days away, and if a deal is not done before then, the 2019 draft picks become much less valuable and almost worthless to David Griffin. A report came out and said that the trade won't even happen with the Lakers if they use the 4th overall pick. Finally, these teams need to make sure the salaries will work out because the Lakers and maybe even the Celtics want to be able to keep a max contract slot. With all that explained, I think I've finally shown why this trade is going to be so hard to complete, and honestly the trickiest trade in NBA history. So I came up with a few mock trades, so this is what they are. Trade number 1. The Lakers have already made business with the Pistons in the Reggie Bullock trade and have the connection in place to make a potential 3-team trade. The Lakers get 80 of course, and the Pistons get Kyle Kuzma, Josh Hart, and a future Lakers first round pick in 2021. The Pelicans get Blake Griffin, Brandon Ingram, Moritz Wagner, Alex Caruso, the number 4 overall pick, and the 15th pick. The Pistons begin their rebuild after failing to run the table in the playoffs by trading Blake Griffin, who's on a huge, kinda bad contract. He is an all-star level player though, which David Griffin wants. Also, David Griffin is very, very high on Brandon Ingram and said that he was a fan of Brandon Ingram even before being the Pelicans GM, so he fits the potential all-star mold. The Pelicans also get the 4th and 15th picks in this upcoming draft, so this trade fits all their wants and would hopefully work on all sides. This next trade I have is Brooklyn getting Anthony Davis, the Pelicans getting their future star player in D'Angelo Russell, their young star player with all-star potential Karis LeVert, and a solid rookie Rodions Kurucs, and the Memphis Grizzlies 2020 first-round pick with a little bit of protection, but really not that much in the future. The Celtics get Jarrett Allen in the 27th pick as well. The Pelicans get everything they want in a deal, and Brooklyn gives up their entire future to get Anthony Davis for a year. D'Angelo Russell is a restricted free agent, so the Nets would sign him, and in his contract it would say he will be traded to the Pelicans within 48 hours once he signs the deal. I don't see this trade happening because Brooklyn would not give up this much for a rental. Finally, the Boston Celtics make a move for Anthony Davis in this trade right here. The Celtics would be giving up their future in hopes that Anthony Davis would be enough to somehow keep Kyrie in Boston. This is so much, and I doubt the Celtics would do this because it's just too big of a risk. I believe that the Wizards would do this because they get picks to build a young roster and begin their rebuild, and the Pelicans get everything they want and more in this deal for Anthony Davis. But the Celtics aren't doing it. They're not trading for a 1-year rental. All of these deals will be very tricky to complete because a trade between two teams for a player of this caliber is already hard to agree upon, and now when a third team is added in, things get much more difficult. Not only this, but there is an 8-day window to complete it since the Pelicans want this done before the draft. This trade is going to shock everyone from the return, and I am extremely excited to see which team messed up and which team benefited off of this trade. This trade is going to be so hard to complete, and I hope you guys can see why this trade is the trickiest trade in NBA history. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and tell me if you guys have any ideas for potential Anthony Davis trades that I did not come up with in this video. With that said, I'm out and peace!